Hello and welcome once again to Boom 11 Live. And today we're going to be talking about Champions League. Last time, the Chelsea Blues had gone to Dortmund. They were faced with the yellow wall and they couldn't get past them. Now, Dortmund are on their way back to England to play the second leg. And can they get a reversal? Will Chelsea be able to go through the next round and continue what they have had? A great Champions League experience so far, or will it actually continue based on how bad their season has been? I have with me Abel. Abel, how important is this game going to be for Graham Potter? Because they have really struggled, hasn't it? Because they met with that, I wouldn't call it blitzkrieg as much as a German ball, really, where they couldn't get past. They tried time and time again, but it was Emre Khan who couldn't get, who did allow them to get past him. And then obviously they had that one goal. There's Kareem, the Dream Adeyemi, as he's known, made sure that he scored that one goal and ended up making Chelsea suffer. And now they are going into the second leg with a one goal lead. I know the away goal system is not there, but still you reckon that now Dortmund are in the driver's seat. And
I think I lost your audio there, Jaren. Jaren, I think you're not audible anymore. But I think meanwhile Jaren reconnects and he comes back. I think I'll take that question first up. But funnily, I don't know if that's sign of things to come. But the title of the video suggests it is Borussia Dortmud instead of Dortmund. So I don't know if that's the sign of things to come. Maybe for tonight, if that's going to be the case, if Dortmund is going to be in the mud, then I'd just take the credit for that. That I manifested this was going to happen. But nonetheless, coming back into the game, I personally think that that game, especially which took place in Signal Iduna Arena, uh, I thought that was a classic defensive performance which was put in by Dortmund. It was end to end. Firstly, let's talk about that. One thing which we've seen of Chelsea is that when they come up against teams which play end to end, they are more involved in the game. Even Chelsea had their fair share of chances in that game. If they would have capitalized it, this could have well been a 2-1 leg tie where Chelsea would have been coming into the Stamford Bridge with that lead, and that would have made them sit in a much comfortable position because now after a long time Chelsea have gotten a W under their belt, which has not been the case throughout this season as well. So these kind of factors do add in, especially when you're going to come and play a Champions League night under heavy and tough circumstances. And firstly and foremost, I would say Chelsea getting that win against Leeds is going to put them in a better position, at least in terms of confidence. I know there's a lot of tension which is looming around the Chelsea Football Club, the fans in the Stamford Bridge, and that is. I was just talking to someone who's going to be attending the game tonight in Stamford Bridge, and I was just getting a grasp of how things are there. And what I was told there was the atmosphere is very nervy at this point of time in the London Arena, because primarily that's because of the fact that Chelsea Football Club or the fans have not got the trust or they kind of believe that Graham Potter's men can absolutely do wonderful things towards the latter end of the season, and they can maybe go on to finish very well in the Champions League. That's not been the case. But then, if funny things had a definition in football, if funny things have happened to a particular football club when they're doing disastrously in the Premier League, it's Chelsea Football Club. I'll give you two examples. 2012 was a clear classic example where you know Jaren is back again. Are you audible now? You are not audible yet, Jaren. You're not audible yet. I do not know. Maybe I think he'll come back. Meanwhile, we will continue here. So, so what I was talking about was Chelsea Football Club and funny history they've got when it comes to when people really think this team is done and dusted, this team is gone and buried, and that's when they really come back pretty strong as well. We'll just test Javin's audio once again. Javin, I think you're still not audible. Mm, maybe I think there's something with Jern is facing there. It's been one of those kind of days. It happens, especially when you're streaming online. These kind of audio glitches keep happening time and time again, isn't it? But nonetheless, I think it's rather very important to talk about where we really stand as a team, where things can possibly go from here on for Chelsea Football Club. Firstly and foremost, I have to say, if Chelsea can take some bit of inspiration from their prolific runs in the previous seasons, especially if I have to talk about one season which really comes into my mind is 2012, because that was a very Well, that was a season. I know it wasn't this bad, but definitely it was one of those seasons where things looked very ugly for Chelsea Football Club. Uh, and things really did turn around very quickly as well, right? And that's something which you can expect um, from this club as well, because they've got the talent. It's not like this is a team which could not go out there and do well. See, when Roberto Di Matteo took over Chelsea in 2012 as an interim manager, there were doubts as well, because he was not the most convincing manager when to take over a club and to do play good football as well. He had his method to his madness. He had his method to the way in which Chelsea was going to play and line up. They churned out results. I thought the biggest result they got was defeating Barcelona, and defeating that Bayern Munich team in the final was fantastic as well. Similarly, talking about which, I think it's about the character which needs to be shown. If 11 players today out there in the field are going to put their blood and sweat out there on the field, I don't think a lot of teams can actually go on to defeat Chelsea on that day, because there is a lot of talent there. You're talking about some of the best young players out there in the world playing for this football club, right? It's not a thing which has happened all of a sudden overnight, where this football club is a bunch of kids who are going out there to play football. It's a very good football club. It's a team which has done well over a period of time consistently, and these are possibly the kind of the jubilation which you need to consider when you need to talk about when we talk about Chelsea Football Club as well. And I personally think this is something which a lot of people might not agree, but I personally think that this has been one of the best seasons for Chelsea Football Club in terms of getting the right players in to build for the future. I know in terms of results they haven't gotten it yet, but just in terms of getting the right players for the next 8 years at least, I think that makes them feel a lot more secured, because they understand maybe this could be the last time they're playing in the Champions League in the next couple of years. Maybe Champions League might not be returning to Bridge in the next season, considering where they are put up in the Premier League race and where they might not finish up in the European positions as well. So these are factors which should be considered, especially as they're going onto the field today. If they want to really fight out today, I think there's no better way than to fight out today and to really give their fans that kind of belief, that kind of hope that okay, we can go out there and maybe churn out a whistle, maybe 1-0, take it to the extra time and see how things go. Because funny things keep happening in football, right? Especially in knockout fixtures, especially in knockout ties against a premier opposition. You obviously want to take your team to that last bit as well. You want to give it a fight. 1-0, you're never out of the tie. 2-0 as well, you're never out of the tie. Chelsea will believe they're never out of the tie. It's just 1-0. It's just like being 1-0 down in a game. Now you have 90 minutes to play football with. That the very fact that away goal advantage, anything is not there, will make them feel a lot better as well. Because even if they concede, even after the equalizing, if they concede, it's again them just going one goal behind. They don't have to score two more to get rid of that mountain which is in front of them. So these kind of factors do play a big role, especially in tonight's clash. Now, talking about Dortmund on the other end, what a fantastic season they've been having so far. I mean, the run which they've had since the end of the World Cup, after the World Cup, I think it's been phenomenal so far for the Dortmund team. I have to be very honest about the fact that the formation which they've been playing, the kind of belief they've had in that particular setup or the structure of 4-1-4-1 up there, playing out, not getting those results, pressing high, you're playing that very good football, and Schlotterback coming into form is a massive upgrade for this team as well. Now, when you look at the larger scheme of things, I also feel like you might find certain changes today in tonight's clash as well. But I still believe if you have players like Sebastian Haller, Karim Adeyemi, then if you have Bellingham putting on a shift today, and similarly with Emre Can as well, if they can really have a good game in the midfield, then I think Chelsea will be kept quiet throughout the 90 minutes, and that's going to be the major factor to counter for them as well. In Bridge, in an important Champions League night, it is never going to be easy. Stamford Bridge has seen some of the most magical nights as well. One could say it's not the most intimidating place. Maybe if you talk about Allianz Arena or Anfield on Champions League night, but it still is intimidating. You are going into a team's fans who still will back their team at the end of the day. I know there's a lot of difference of opinion among the fan groups. They all want Potter out, and it's understandable. It's only understandable that they don't want to wait any longer, and that's the modern day football, right? The patience is running out in every fan, and especially when you have gotten the signings. You're expected to deliver more often than not, and if you don't do that, then you become then the questions are going to be certainly on you, and the questions are certainly going to be on how how you are not able to deliver, how you've had a very unsuccessful season, and etc etc. So here is an opportunity for Chelsea Football Club to see and maybe revive their seasonal hopes in a different way altogether. Maybe tonight's night is going to be very important when you look at their seasonal progression as well. Now, if they get a win tonight, if they are able to create something magical out of tonight's game, I think that's going to give them a lot of confidence now, talking about which they will be playing the Premier League as well. Now, the latter end of the Premier League is going to be massive for Chelsea as well. We've been talking about it time and time again as to how teams like Chelsea, teams like Liverpool just need a couple of wins under their belt to get that machine kicking, because it's very easy to write teams off when they're not doing well, but then when you get that momentum under your wings, it's we've seen that often in sport, that you go on to do interesting things. I'll give you a very simple example. It's not from European football. I'll just give you from Indian football, because the ISL has been happening in India, and that's where I like to give you this example as well. Bengaluru FC, the local team from Bangalore, who's been playing in the ISL, at the end of 11 games, they had 8 losses, 2 draws, and 1 win, and it just looked very bleak for them. And then they put in a shift. Everybody thought this was the end. The manager had to go out, everything had to be changed. But then they put in a shift, won 10 games in a row now, almost getting the lead into that semi-final leg 2 against Mumbai City FC as well. So I'm just giving you some of the examples as to how things can change very quickly in a sport like football. Especially when you do not have trust, when you do not have faith from your fans, it does not help the team as well. Maybe the fans, if they go out there and make a difference tonight, it's going to do a world of good for Chelsea Football Club as well. Maybe tonight's result, if they get a 2-0 win against Dortmund today, that's going to really give them that extra bit of boost, to add a bit of boost to go out there and have a very phenomenal end to their season. Because we should not write Chelsea off for two main reasons. The players are not bad. Players are good players. Players have a lot of promise in them, and they can do some really good things if you are going to entrust the belief upon them as well. So these factors needs to be considered, especially when you're back in a team like Chelsea, and that's why this tie cannot be written off as well. But talking about Dortmund, this season has been phenomenal for them. The different players who have stepped up at different times of the game, it's been fantastic. I've already mentioned someone like Schlotterbeck for them in the defensive line. I have to talk about Jude Bellingham, man. I mean, there is no way you can talk about Dortmund without talking about Jude Bellingham these days. What a phenomenal season he's had so far. Now, 4 goals, 4 assists in the Bundesliga. He's been exemplary so far for them. He's really put in a shift where he really really understood that, okay, I'm the go-to man here, and maybe I have to make the difference for my team, and he certainly has made a lot of difference. Now, talking about their Champions League stats for this season, I mean, it is not the most exemplary Champions League stat. That's primarily because they were put in a very tough group as well. But they've scored a lot of goals. They've scored 11 goals. They've only considered 5. Very similar stat to what Chelsea also holds. On the other hand, when you talk about Chelsea, they've scored 10 goals and only considered 5 goals. They've had a very different season in the Champions League in comparison to Premier League. Premier League, they've been all over the place. But one place they've really found themselves, they've been able to churn out results, have been Champions League. Even if you look at that first leg tie between these two teams, Chelsea played one of the best football in the last couple of months in that game. Though they were very unlucky to not to have a goal, they were in always with an opportunity to score every now and then as well. So that is where Chelsea will really believe that if Dortmund are going to play an end-to-end game, they will also be there and with a chance to create few opportunities. And I think you should never write Chelsea off in that regard. But now talking about the defensive stats of I've just talked about the possessional stats of Chelsea this season in Champions League. They've actually controlled majority of their games with the ball. They've had close to 60% possession on average. They've had great ball recoveries, and also their discipline throughout has been also very good as well. Passing has been great for them in the final third, close to 88% accuracy in the final third as well. Now, what's interesting for them is what will happen to them, especially when it comes to playing against a low block if Dortmund are going to maintain it. Because Dortmund often this season, if they when they really want to turn out a result, they move to a low block. They go into that 4-1-4-1 formation. It also turns into a 5 men at the back because they keep that low block intensity. Make sure the structure is maintained pretty well, because then Emre Can really drops in between the defenders as well. So this is where I think it's going to be very interesting, because Chelsea have really struggled against teams who have kept low block as well. That's primarily because Chelsea did not have a finisher in the final third as a target man who they can target up to. Kai Havertz has been one of the relied players as a number 9. He's not really given them the returns which one would expect him to give. And that has been the biggest disappointment for Chelsea throughout this season, as to why Kai Havertz haven't really delivered for them. Now, when we talk about Now, when you talk on the other end for Dortmund, they've had players stepping up in different times of the game. Now, to be fair, talking about someone like a Sebastian Haller, or to be honest, talking about someone like a Mokoku or Adeyemi, these lads have been very versatile in terms of their positioning. They can play through the middle, they come on the flanks, and they've been able to exert pressure on the opposition whenever they've been asked to do as well. So that adaptability or versatility has been the standout feature in the Dortmund's camp as well. But having spoken that, I personally think it's going to be very interesting to see how Chelsea also line up. I'm expecting someone like a Sterling to have an important game today. Mount, we've often written off Mount, but I really hope he starts in his familiar position. He plays a number 8, number 10. Don't tinker around by playing him at left wing. He does not really suit in the left wing position. It's unfair on the player. It's unfair on the very fact that you're trying to make him play on the flank. He does not have the pace. It does not have that kind of ability to cut in from the flank. He's a player who you can play as a false nine if need be. You can play him centrally. He's going to give you the best returns as possible. I think against a team like Dortmund, who might go into a low block, you need players who can bring in their A game in terms of creativity. And I think going in with Mount would not be a bad option at all in a game like this. And Mount, we've often seen in some of the big games, he often tends to turn up and he often tends to deliver big as well. One of the biggest examples is the Champions League final of 2021. And now, once again, I have to say, for Chelsea, it's all up to hopes and as to how they're going to turn up tonight. And for Dortmund, it's on the other end. It's going to be about how they really maintain that resilience. They've been extremely good in terms of maintaining resilience. You have to say they've been tested. The temperament of the defensive line, temperament of the entire team has been outstanding. It's one of the youngest squads out there, and they've shown that if you entrust us with responsibility, we can actually deliver on the big stage. And if they go on to the quarterfinal by defeating Chelsea, that's going to be a big up because they are flying high in the Bundesliga as well. In the Bundesliga, they have been tied on points with Bayern Munich at the second position with 49 points after 23 games. And in the Champions League, if they go into the quarterfinals, not sure who they're going to end up playing, but definitely, it's going to be very interesting to see. Now, let's go to another fixture, which is there tonight. It's Club Brugge versus Benfica. Now, talking about Club Brugge, they've had a fantastic season in terms of Champions League. Coming till the round of 16, everybody thought they were one of the dark horses to watch out for. They've gone out there, played some really good matches, gotten the results whenever they were put under pressure. One of the most overwhelming teams of the season so far in Champions League. Now, they came up against a strong and a resilient Benfica squad. Benfica, remember, they finished on top of the league. On top of the Champions League group with PSG and Juventus in it, and they really did not let PSG get past them throughout their two-leg tie against them, and they got better results against Juventus as well. The progression of Benfica football team has been excellent in this season so far, and I'm just going to bring in some of the stats as well. How they really played some really compact football, which you might wonder that a team like Benfica is going to be a team who's going to not give you most entertaining football. But then now, if you talk about just the way in which they played football throughout the season, it's fantastic. They're leading the table even in the Premier Liga in Portugal as well. So that speaks volumes of how great a season they've had. They've just had one loss throughout the season, and similarly talking about which they've had a outstanding season even in the Champions League. They've had possibly one of the best ones so far. Of course, we talk about Napoli, we talk about other teams, but then if I've talked of one team who's had a fantastic run, who has been under the radar throughout the season, it's definitely Benfica as well, because they've been unbeaten in the Champions League so far, 4 wins, 2 draws. Now, if you have to calculate the round of 16, it's a total of 5 wins after 7 games, 2 draws, haven't lost a game throughout the season. They've just lost one game. What an exemplary stat to have there, isn't it? So, to be fair, talking about which, I think you have to say it is early days, but you still can't say you can't say anything because Napoli, Benfica, these teams do tend up to turn up, and they tend to really outperform teams rather. They've been outstanding throughout the season, and that's been the best case right now. Their best player has been Joao Mario. Whenever he's been entrusted with that responsibility to go out there up front in the goal, he's really delivered. And also Gonzalo Ramos, of course, a lot of people remember Gonzalo Ramos from what he's performed in the World Cup as well, but Gonzalo Ramos has been exemplary once again, even for a Benfica team. I know, missing out on someone like Enzo Fernandez is massive for them, because he was one of their core engines in the midfield. But then I have to be very honest. Other players have really stepped up. Other players, whenever they've been given that opportunity, they've really come out there and they really felt like, okay, we can do a job. And someone like David Neres, we do not talk a lot about him. There are a lot of these young players who've really been exemplary for them throughout the season, who have really gone under the radar. And that's where I think you have to say this team is a team to watch out for tonight as they line up tonight. As they go further into the competition, I'm expecting them to really get the result tonight against Club Brugge at their home. They should be able to turn out the result. They should progress into the quarterfinals quite comfortably. And even in the quarterfinals, I don't think any team should write them off. Any team should take them lightly. I know it's been a while since they really dominated Europe. People say it's that curse, that 100-year curse, which their former manager had imposed on them. I think let's all put that to rest. But this season in Europe, in the last season, they really showed glimpse of what they can possibly do. But this season, they really turned up. One team who's been not spoken enough about it is Benfica, and Benfica has been the team to watch for me throughout the season. And I personally think tonight, if they get the result going into the quarterfinals, it's going to be hard. But for Club Brugge on the other end, I know they had a fantastic start of the season, but somewhere or the other, even the group stage going behind Porto, I expected them to finish on top of the group, but them finishing second was slightly disappointing. But no, despite that, I personally think it's going to be very interesting to watch tonight's game. If Club Brugge can even play at their 100% and show what they showed in the early parts of the season, if they can get an early goal in tonight, and that's going to really change the fixture to really put a light onto that tie. Because as long as now, if you look from a distant view, you might think the tie is done and dusted, it's buried. But I really think it's far from buried and it's far from done and dusted, because you really can't wipe a tie like this off, because anything can happen. It's a funny game, right? In Champions League nights, especially when you're defending a lead, the pressure is different compared to when you're chasing as well. It's two different kinds of pressure, but the momentum often tends to be with the team who scores in that particular chase. Now, if Club Brugge goes on to score once, then that's going to really put a lot of pressure on Benfica. Then Benfica will have to defend at the same time. Will also want to attack as well. That's going to really give that opportunity for Club Brugge to make those in behind ones. Maybe create some open spaces. I know Benfica defense has been the best, one of the best in Europe this season. Otamendi, a World Cup winner out there in the middle of the park. He's been a warrior for them. He's been a warrior even for Argentina, but even for Benfica, he's been a warrior this season for them. And that's where I think Benfica defense, to break that Benfica line is a tough task. They often tend to keep a clean sheet. And keeping clean sheet has become a habitual thing for Benfica this season, and it's been one of their biggest success. That's one of the reasons why they've had that 8 point lead even in Premier Liga in the Portugal as well. So I personally think Benfica will have a very good season. I don't know how far they can go, but I hope they go deep into the competition even after quarterfinals. Maybe semi-final finish could be great. Napoli, Benfica, that lineup looks very, very interesting, because Napoli is one team I think we will talk about in the coming days. We will have a special feature on Napoli. But now, as of now, I personally think, a team like Benfica, the most underrated team in Europe this season, needs to be talked about more than what it really deserves and what it really has been spoken so far. So that is pretty much from tonight's clashes. It's been very interesting. I don't see any questions, so I personally will wind up tonight's session pretty quickly, because I think that's been one of the key moments right now. For my prediction, I think it's going to be very interesting. I think if Chelsea scores, I think Chelsea will win this game, regardless of what happens. But if Chelsea don't, then Dortmund possibly will have that upper hand. Especially, I'm talking about the first 45 minutes. But if Chelsea ends up, playing a very mediocre kind of football, what they've been doing in the Premier League, I think it's going to be very, very, very tough task for Chelsea. I mean, tonight is going to be a tough task for Chelsea either way. But anything with that win under the belt for Chelsea could be a positive gain. But for Dortmund, they're a team on high on momentum, team which is flying high, team who's clicking at the right time or peaking at the right time, if that's the ideal word which needs to be used. But now talking about Benfica, I think Benfica should cruise through to the quarterfinal quite comfortably. So guys, remember we'll be back tomorrow once again to be previewing about the biggest fixture. It is Messi, Mbappe versus Kimi Goretzka, Muller, and Jamal Musiala. They are going to be traveling to Germany in Allianz Arena. Never easy. They have one goal deficit. They have to clear it. No Neymar. Neymar out for the rest of the season. He'll be undergoing surgery in Qatar. So that's a very interesting fixture which is lined up for us tomorrow. So we will be reviewing tonight's fixtures, and we'll be coming back after what happens tomorrow, and talking about which. And also remember, India will be playing their fourth test match in Ahmedabad starting from the Thursday. So that's also going to be very interesting to watch, because it's of course WTC final, which is on the ropes for India. For India, they'll really be hoping that they really are able to come back out of that very heartbreaking loss they had in Indore and Australia. They'll be hoping that Australia does not carry that momentum. India really puts that halt and plays like they really did in Nagpur and Delhi as well. That's about it from us. Thank you for joining, whoever has joined tonight. I know there were less turn up, but I really hope you share and subscribe to our channel, and also share this video whenever you're watching it, and also so that it'll help us to gain more followers and more subscribers, and also keep bringing more of this interesting content for you. And remember to make your teams right now on Boom 11 for tonight's Champions League contest. It's open right now on Boom 11. It's absolutely free of cost to make teams on Boom 11 and win so many rewards. And also try out the predictor feature if you want to predict some interesting questions regarding the game, regarding your favorite players, regarding your favorite teams. Do it and go ahead. So have a good time, all of you. Good night, and see you all tomorrow. Bye bye.